Welcome back to the discussion of the starter in the Scout. As you'll recall, we took it out, we tested it, it seemed fine. So, on to other things. Yes, I probably should have started with this. When I put the battery on the charger and left it for a couple of hours, I noticed it had accepted not a lot of charge, and I'm then now wondering back to the issue of, is it a faulty battery? I'm used to faulty batteries just doing the click, click, click when they can't get the starter going, not just one clunk and stopping, and then the starter jamming in the flywheel. That was another possible red herring. So the other battery's 3 years old, which is generally young to die. I usually get between 5 and 7 years out of my batteries, but who knows? I'm not exactly sure where it came from. So I picked up another one anyway, because it's like 2 hours to town and back, from out here, which is that's a long drive. I mean, it's wonderful when you're here, but when you have to head back up that road for something you forgot or you need, it's a pain in the ass. So for 130 bucks, I don't mind buying another battery. The issue of getting the boat here was interesting because, of course, I didn't have the starter installed, and when I attached a booster, it wouldn't tilt. I think, although I don't know, and this is the danger of YouTube mechanics, I don't know if the starter being installed is an integral part of the overall engine electrical system. I mean, imagine it is, but I was surprised when the tilt wouldn't work. So, oh man, what I had to do was disengage the hydraulic valve system. So there's a little screw in there that you turn. And once you've turned that, you can actually manually tilt this thing up and down. But when I say manually, holy crap, it's heavy. I ended up having to attach a come-along to the seat bases, run the cable up over the tow bar, take the cap off, and then attach it to the lifting ring that's installed at the factory. And I managed, you can see there's not a lot of lift run there, managed to get it up just enough that I could wedge the transom saver underneath and trailer it like that. And that's how I got it back up here. So we got a few things to do. I got to put the starter back in. I got to install this new battery. I still want to check out the wiring behind the ignition switch. I'm wondering if there's something there. But anyway, we're sort of in step one, which is clean up all of our contacts. Give them a good going over with a file. And I thought for good measure, maybe clean out the battery box, because it was covered in crud down there. So, all right, let's see if this makes things any better. Of course, the inside of the boat still hasn't had its seasonal clean out, but priorities, right? Okay, let's go. All right, so you'll remember that our starter sits here. We have obviously electrical connections. Here we also have one here, and then, so this was what I wasn't sure of. I would have thought that the tilt would still work without this thing connected, but perhaps not, because I just figured the tilt circuit was ahead of the start circuit, but who knows? Again, very far from a Yamaha tech. So now that we've tested the starter and it seems fine, the solenoid works, let's put it back in and see if our tilt is back in action and if a fully charged battery is the answer. All right, so starter motor's back on. You can see there's those little sleeves on both sides that allow you to position it so it's holding itself there. Obviously the bolts go in, the terminals. Now this thing actually requires this other little piece here. You might remember from the other video there's a right angle which actually sits like that's interesting. Maybe I'll go watch my old video because I know this does sit as a right angle. Oh, right. I've just put that thing through there to hold it. So that pins both the positive up against the solenoid. Sorry. This one's the negative. Comes down because it's permanently connected there, and it will go onto here. And then we should be good. All right, I'm going to button those things up and then be back. Yeah, so that little plastic fitting here basically creates an elbow. I don't know if I can get the phone under there. There's a nut that does up. And so positive lead gets sandwiched between the elbow and the solenoid body. That leaves this one for the other lead, which is going to come up out of here and will be on like that. And so that nut or that screw that I was sort of wondering about is this one, and it's going to hold the negative here. So the 3 bolts that hold the starter in. Interesting to note that only one of them actually has a split washer. I didn't notice that taking them off. So I'm going to put the split one in the bottom and the other 2 in the top. And then, of course, you know, with any other fine machine screws, you don't want them cross-threaded. So sometimes I spin them backwards till I hear a click. Yeah, and then I go forward. And then gently, there's your click. And if anything is binding, stop turning, click, and back it out. Okay. I think I did swear I would get a tripod at one point and still haven't, so the old one-handed approach is not exactly the best. Anyway, you know what you know what tightening a bolt looks like, so I'm going to do those, and then we'll attach the rest of the leads. Okay. You'll recall in the previous video that these things seemed a bit slightly oxidized, so I've just gone over them with the edge of an X-Acto blade and a wire brush to clean them up, to produce the best contact possible, because as I said before, these engines seem to be really sensitive to intermittent or interrupted electrical power. And again with this one, so scuff it up, make sure you got a nice bright contact, and then torque it down a little bit, don't over tighten it. And oh, by the way, life is too goddamn short for shitty tools. This thing, where's the ball? The ball's falling out. Anyway, it's just crap, you know, and when things like this seem like a great deal on the shelf, they usually are not. And there it is, all bolted in. I have put a very light film of grease around here. You don't want a lot, I would imagine, because it will be just spinning, flinging it everywhere. But if our issue is jamming against the flywheel, that might not be a bad idea. Also, full disclosure, in the spirit of YouTube Veritas, I have dropped something down inside behind the fuse panel. You may remember that there was a cap on this thing. It's hard to see. It was a, you know, this little elbow I talked about that bolts onto the bottom of the solenoid. It had a little plastic cap that while I was trying to get in there, fell down behind the fuse box. So I'm going to take that apart off camera and find it, because who the hell wants to watch that? But anyway, what I want to do is get the battery connected and see if our trim is working and if our start is working. So there's a new battery all tucked away. With the, I should have shown you this before. It was an ungodly mold spattered mess. So anyway, contacts sorted, clamped, tightened down, covered with a little bit of grease. And so, moment of truth, at least for the trim and tilt. Okay. So that works. What we're going to do is bump the starter a couple of times with the lanyard pulled, because we definitely don't want it to start or spend too much time rubbing our water pump impeller dry, because that's not good. In fact, maybe I'll try and splash a little water in there. I'm going to run it on the muffs later to get it ready to launch, but I just want to see if that starter's working. All right, let's see what happens here. Okay. So, I'm happy to see that, but I'm not going to call it an unqualified success until we get a few hours of use on it, because as I said before, this started giving me issues sort of toward the middle and end of last season. So definitely going to watch it and see if that problem comes back. So, perhaps not a model of troubleshooting, diving for the most complex problem first, when perhaps it was just a battery, which I probably could have just taken to a garage and had load tested as a first step. But anyway, I've always wanted to know how a starter works exactly, and so that was an opportunity to do it. So we'll just get the rest of the covers, button her up, and hit the lake. Thanks for watching, folks.